Hey guys, DpadDanny back again, and it's Thanksgiving time for us here in the United States. It's a time for being thankful for the people that are in your lives, the things that you have, and also, it's an excuse to stuff your face with some tasty food. In honor of that, today we'll be looking at some food games! Yay! Burger Time is an arcade classic by Data East in which you play as Peter Pepper, a chef fending off sentient food monsters while preparing your signature burgers. This has been ported to many systems, but this is the Intellivision version here. Oh hey, it's the first time I've mentioned Intellivision on the channel. Well, let's talk about it. The Intellivision is a fun little console that was out at about the same time as the Atari 2600 and the ColecoVision. This is the Intellivision 2, which was a redesigned, re-released version that came out a bit later. The cartridge slot on this one is on the side, which is kinda weird, and you really have to jam the games in there. The system is pretty basic, and there's nothing really that stands out about the system in general, except for the controllers. These are hardwired to the console, which has its own little cradle slots in the top to store them when you're not playing. There's no joystick or control pad, just this weird disc. It works essentially the same as the D-pad, but it also spins. I don't know, it's a little awkward, but also kinda neat. Then there's the keypad, which allowed a lot of different control schemes for various games, which came with overlays for the controllers that would show you what does what. I like the personalized touch this adds to the gaming experience. There's also these little nubby buttons on the side that I tend to forget about. So, back to Burger Time. Like I said before, it's about Peter Pepper making his burgers and fighting off a variety of food monsters. You need to walk across the various parts of the burger to knock them down a level, which will also cause anything below them to drop a level as well. This seems unsanitary, but holy hell, them's some big-ass burgers. I'm not sure how you'd manage this otherwise. This also serves as a solid method of getting rid of the food monsters, who come in different flavors. There's sausages and eggs mainly, but later on there's pickles, according to the title screen. I'm just not great at this one and can't get that far. You can also throw pepper at your enemies to stun them for a short while so you can get past them. You use those little nubby buttons for that. Did you forget about those? I did too. Out to Lunch for the Super Nintendo is another game where you play as a chef. Only this time you go to make some food and the food escapes. Naturally, you need to get the food back and put them in a cage. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you play the bad guy here. I'm not sure if this guy has a name or not, since I don't have the manual or anything. So you're out to get your ingredients back. You need to grab the food characters with your net and then drop them off in the cage. You run with the Y button, and the A button uses the net, which is less than ideal because it can be hard to time out the momentum to be able to grab the food without running into them. If you run into one of them, you'll get stunned and lose some food you haven't caged yet if you have some on you. This happens often because the range for your net is really short. After you cage the specified amount of food for the stage, shown in the top left of the screen, a door to the next level will open up. Sometimes in larger stages, you'll be low on time when you cage your last food, and you don't know where the door is. You also have to find the net in each stage. Oh yeah, did I mention you don't start off with it? It's the same deal as the door. Sometimes you need to travel the whole distance of the stage to find it before you can even start to capture the food. There's also a few other items scattered about, like this pepper shaker you can stun enemies with. Hey, maybe this guy's like Peter Pepper's grandson, Paul Pepper. The stages from what I've played are mostly outside and mostly green and snowy mountainous looking areas. There's some platforms that have snow on them, and let me tell you, these are some of the most slippery ice physics I've ever encountered in a game. Every once in a while, a random dude will show up. He'll open up your cage if he gets to it before you stop him, which will allow some of the food to escape. The graphics are decent, and everything looks fine for the most part. The music is unmemorable, and the gameplay, while somewhat interesting, really gets more tedious than anything after a while. If it looks like something you might want to try, it's at least not a very expensive one. This is Overcooked on the Nintendo Switch, but it's also on Steam and other consoles as well. Hey, another first for the channel! I'm on a roll! This is an interesting game where you work with your friends to prepare food to serve customers' orders. The story around this is really quite ingenious and imaginative for a cooking game. When you start the game, you're on a roof trying to serve food to the Ever Peckish, which is a hungry spaghetti monster that has awoken and is ready to wreak havoc on humanity. Apparently he's got a real big appetite, and the only way to make him go away is by feeding him. You suck at cooking, so you don't succeed. But the Onion King here transports you back in time to train in the culinary arts. The stages are timed sections where you have to fill a certain amount of orders. This game requires the utmost teamwork, as you and your friends will have to use verbal communication to choreograph what each person does. For example, one person may have to provide ingredients to another who's tucked behind a counter so they can chop it up and add it to the pot. After the ingredients have been added and the dish is ready, that person will have to hand it to the first person who drops off the finished meal to be served. Different levels have different layers of complexity. Some levels add outside interference, like this one where you're cooking in the middle of the street and have to avoid passers-by as you move between the different stations. This ship stage causes the vertical counters to shift as the waves rock the boat, demanding you change up your strategy. The dishes you need to cook are made up of varied ingredients, which are shown on the order tickets at the top left of the screen. When an order is close to being late, it'll start shaking. If you wait too much longer after that, you'll miss the order and it'll come out of your total points at the end of the stage. If you leave food on the stove for too long after it's been cooked, it'll start a fire that will quickly spread to other areas of the kitchen if you don't take care of it with a fire extinguisher. This is a pretty good game if you're looking for a fun multiplayer experience. However, I feel like this is one where your personal enjoyment of the game will be directly weighted by the skill level of you and your teammates. Cooking Mama CookOff is one of the Wii installments of the moderately popular Cooking Mama series. Basically, the game is made up of multi-stage levels where you prepare and cook the selected dish. Each stage will be a part of the overall process, like wash, cut, peel, fry, and so on. These all make pretty good use of the Wii remote. Yes, this game is very motion heavy, so if you don't like a bit of waggle in your life, this is probably not the game for you. After you're finished with all the different parts, you'll be graded on how well you did overall. The first time you complete a dish, you'll get a recipe for another one. There's lots of different recipes from different places all around the world. I'm not sure how many total are in the game, but there seems to be quite a few. Some recipes are pretty easy and only have a few sub-stages, but then there's other ones that are way more complex and have a lot more parts to it. There's some fun stages that have you perform multiple actions while you're cooking, like turning the heat down, adding ingredients, and stirring. These parts are fun and presented in almost a rhythm and music style where you have to do the certain action at the right time. Otherwise, the stages are mostly kinda short with only an action or two in each one. But even though these individual areas aren't that long, dishes can still take a little while to fully prepare. I really feel like if you followed the instructions in real life, you could actually make some of the food you make in the game. I ended up staying up pretty late when I got the footage for this one. What started as something I only meant to play for like 30 minutes quickly turned into a 2-hour session. And again, the game kept making me hungry. Despite the cel-shaded graphic style, everything just looks so damn tasty. This is a fun time I'd recommend to both casual and serious gamers alike. Short Order Eggsplode is a 2-in-1 game for the NES that utilizes the power pad. 3 firsts in this episode, man, it's going to be tough to beat that. Looking at Short Order first, you work at a burger restaurant and you serve burgers made to order. The customers will tell you what they want on their burger and in what order, and you have to remember it and make it by jumping on the corresponding buttons to add the layers. This all plays out like a game of Simon, as the next order will be the same as the previous one with just another layer added. After a while, you have this gigantic burger that makes the customer fat and sleepy, so he leaves to go take a nap. I'm sure he'll be back though. Eggsplode I wouldn't really classify as a food game per se, but I needed to talk about it since it's included in the cartridge. In this one, the sneaky foxes try to set bombs in the chicken coop, and you need to stomp out the bomb before it explodes. There's different colored bombs that can be left alone for varying amount of times before they explode. As you get further, there are more and more foxes laying bombs, and you really need to be on point with your dexterity. The gameplay gets pretty hectic after a while and can easily trip up your feet. It also seems like a good form of cardio, as I really worked up a sweat while playing. Sometimes one of the chickens will lay an egg, and if you accidentally stomp on it, you'll get a miss. Explosions also count as misses. 3 misses and you lose. This game isn't bad, and it makes good use of the power pad accessory. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend it, but it's decent for what it is. Well guys, there's a few food games for you. Now I don't know about you, but those made me hungry. I'm gonna go make me a snack. Again, thanks for watching guys. I hope each and every one of you has a happy Thanksgiving. I'm DpadDanny. See you next time.